I personally love books. I think they're a life hack. The idea that you can purchase someone's life work, digest it within 5 to 15 hours, and then take and apply those ideas to your own life for better living is an incredible trade-off. If books could be consumed in pill form, we'd all be addicts. Well, I don't have a magical pill, but I do have some magical books that I believe will prime you for retirement. If you read any of these books, I guarantee you will have a better retirement. As we go through this list, I'm going to give a strong concept as an introduction to each one of these books. Let's get into it. The first book is called From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. Now, this book is written for those suffering from what's called the striver's dilemma. You likely fit into this category if you've been someone who excels at work and have done so through striving to gain more. Folks that fit into this category generally have the toughest time with the transition to retirement. By definition, they are above average when it comes to status at work. Because of this, a lot of things are tied to work. A sense of meaning and fulfillment historically has probably come from your job. Your community was built around work. A sense of status and being a top dog is a significant benefit that many of us would be shy to admit. Said more clearly, it feels good to be above average. Because of this, retirement looks like the other side, where all of this goes away. If you fit this description, this book is a great investment for you. An exercise the author talks about in this book is something called a reverse bucket list. In reality, it's more of a reverse desire list. The equation to happiness is pretty simple, as this book explains. You take what you have divided by what you want. The more that you want, the less it will feel like you have. Said another way, wanting more belittles what you already have and makes gratitude more difficult. For this exercise, write down everything you desire to have, accomplish, or experience. I have an example of what this might look like for someone watching this video, and obviously this is a hypothetical example, so this may fit you or may not fit you. This exercise is for your eyes only, so feel free to be as transparent and honest as possible. If you desire to beat someone out for a promotion before you retire, write it down. If you want to buy a brand new boat, even though you already have one that already works, write it down. Now, imagine yourself 5 years from now. Imagine you're happier than you've ever been before, but more importantly, imagine yourself at complete peace. You're satisfied with how you're living and the purpose you're living for. You mentioned your spouse or loved one, I've never been happier than this. Okay, now think about the forces that lead to this happy existence. It's likely that you are physically healthy. You have incredible relationships with your friends and family. Maybe there's a faith element for you. You're serving others maybe in some capacity. Now go back to your desire list. With a red marker, cross out everything that competes with the ideal self 5 years from now. Which one of these desires competes for your time, your attention, your resources? I'm guessing there's a decent amount of red on the page. There's also some desires that aren't crossed off. This book explains these are the only worthy desires worth pursuing. If you see yourself in 5 years having a great relationship with your daughter, then maybe a trip to Alaska where you're backpacking across Alaska or in the heart of Alaska. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe that's a good desire. But also identify other ways you can build that relationship that doesn't take a huge trip, spending more time with her today. The goal of this exercise is not to not desire anything, but rather be extremely intentional about where you allocate your resources. Working 2 more years to fight for a promotion or raise so your ego can feel better probably isn't worthwhile in the grand scheme of things. A one-on-one trip to Alaska with your daughter likely does fit into that 5-year vision of yourself. This was an incredible exercise in clarity for me, and I hope it is for you as well. Book number 2, Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This is one of the best books on the mental and psychological side of money. This book is full of great lessons, which makes picking just one very difficult. But here's a good one. Most debates in finance are people with a different time horizon and different goals talking over one another. The modern world of connectiveness and the internet is absolutely incredible. You can essentially learn any subject from a number of different teachers in a fraction of the time it took historically. But with all of this, it's easy to get swayed into following someone else's goals for your money. Let me give an example of 2 sides of this spectrum related to retirement. On one side, I have retiree Adam, who loves the stock market. He's well educated in market history, believes in business ownership and buying companies, and thinks the safest way to retire is to have multiples of what you need, essentially multiples of safety, having a margin of safety. Next, on the other side of the spectrum, we have retiree Dan. Now, Dan's only goal for his wealth is to gain $75,000 per year of income in retirement. He doesn't want to have to worry about his wealth or have to think about the economy or what the economy is doing to his wealth. He wants to retire with financial peace, and so he chooses to buy an income annuity. For the sake of this discussion, let's say both of these individuals has enough wealth to tackle their retirement problems, but is just going to do so differently. Well, who do you think will do better in retirement? Well, what's your definition of better? Retiree Adam will likely grow his wealth at a greater rate and will probably be able to spend more throughout his retirement. Certainly will leave more to the next generation, but the cost of this is that Adam will probably have some times where he worries about the stock market, maybe even loses sleep because of the economy. At the very least, thinks about it far more than Dan. Dan, on the other hand, has agreed to accept less growth for a trade-off of peace of mind. He almost never thinks about his money. Every month, about $6,000 comes in, and he spends about $6,000. He knows this will last until the end of his life. Now, which person has the right retirement plan? Some may say it was Adam. Some may say it was Dan. Your answer says more about you than it does about the objective truth, because the right plan in this situation will depend on the goals that you're trying to achieve. Too many times I see an individual following a retirement plan that clearly does not fit their psychology or goals because someone else has debated them into submission. The number one thing you need to do before you implement any strategy is to be clear on what you want from your money. Every goal has a reward, but also every goal has a cost as well. Know both before anything is implemented. Book number 3 is a personal favorite of mine. It's one that I've probably read and gifted more than any other in my library, and that's 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. Now, this book is centered all around the most valuable non-renewable resource we have, and that's time. The underlying premise of this book is the idea around 4,000 weeks. If you were to take a normal human lifespan, they have, give or take, about 4,000 weeks on this earth. Both an incredibly long time, but also a surprisingly short amount of time as you start to tick off the weeks. An idea in this book is the importance of intentionality in life, but in our case, retirement. Thinking about and choosing what you actually want is extremely difficult. Most of us know the things we want, but in a world of constraints, typically all of the things that we want aren't possible. We need to pick and choose and make trade-offs. Let me pick out and read a short excerpt from the book that really hit home for me personally. We invariably prefer indecision over committing ourselves to a single path. In other words, it's easy for me to fantasize about, say, a life spent achieving stellar professional success, while also excelling as a partner and a parent, while also dedicating myself to training for marathons or lengthy meditation retreats or volunteering in my community, because as long as I'm only fantasizing, I get to imagine all of them unfolding simultaneously and flawlessly. As soon as I start trying to live any one of those lives, though, I'll be forced to make trade-offs, put less time than I'd like to into one of these domains, so as to make space for another, and to accept that nothing I will do will go perfectly anyway, and the result of my actual life will inevitably prove disappointing by comparison with this fantasy. And this really hits home on the allure of indecision. Again, in our fantasy world, everything is possible. On one hand, your goal for retirement might be one where you are trying to maximize time freedom over all else. You might look at the hobbies you have or the things that you like to do, and you might realize that many of them really don't cost that much money. Or maybe they don't have to cost that much money. You might look at your life and think, if only I just had time and the freedom, I can be very happy with very little. Given this, your income need on an annual basis is probably going to be quite modest. You might also think about an alternative version of your retirement that is a little bit more nomadic. Maybe you have a side interest of traveling the world and seeing new exotic places. Maybe you want to stay a month in each of those places to really experience and understand the culture. This lifestyle would require quite a bit more income and therefore wealth. Well, if you're someone who is in their early 50s, maybe the first scenario that I explained allows you to retire within a couple years, where the other goal means working for maybe double that. Both of these will look quite attractive for completely different reasons. You might find yourself enjoying both of those lifestyles, but which one are you willing to put your flag in and say, this is my plan, this is my goal? Towing the line between these two retirements won't solve the problems that indecision brings. And choosing a path doesn't mean that you're locked into that path for the rest of your life. It's not a binary decision. It's all right if plans change, but the quality of a retirement plan comes down to the goal we are solving for, as we talked about in the psychology of money. A lack of intentionality and vision will cost you far more than any other expense within your life. Book number 4 is Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. Now, I've talked about this book on this channel and have even recorded a video explaining some of the best concepts from this book. I'll link to that in the upper right-hand corner here. The core thesis of this book is, on average, people tend to grow their wealth into retirement. Now, because money is just a tool and holds no real intrinsic value, carrying excess wealth into retirement and even death means a lot of wasted potential. Because wealth generally takes time to earn, you are thereby wasting the precious resource, the non-renewable resource of time, by leaving money at the end of your life. In this video, I want to discuss the most common objection to the idea of Die with Zero. The concept is fairly easy to understand without even reading the book, but again, I would recommend reading the book. But the most common objection is giving to the next generation. Some scoff at the idea of dying with zero because they want to give to the next generation and feel it's selfish not to. Well, let's walk through this. Let's say you started having kids at age 26. Let's say you retire at 62, and let's say in this hypothetical example, you pass away at age 87. 25-year retirement isn't bad. And let's say at the end of your life, you have $1.3 million in today's dollars still left. Now, this is a great gift to the next generation, but how old is your oldest kid at that point? Well, if my math is right, they'll be 61 years old. They're likely prepared for their own retirement at this point, if not already retired. Every day, I talk with retirees that will likely receive an inheritance in the next stretch of time. But almost all of these retirees don't want to include it in their retirement plan and don't want to plan for it. I'm guessing your kids will be the same way. And so by the time that they receive their inheritance, it will be by definition unneeded excess. Now, this isn't to say that they won't get any benefit out of that money, but they will get far less benefit that they otherwise could have gotten. And by the way, your selfless gift of giving to the next generation, there's an argument that could be made it really wasn't that selfish. Once you're dead, it's not selfless to give away something that you can no longer use. What if instead you gave while you were alive? Yes, you probably won't be able to give as much, but your gifts will go a lot further. Consider if this person started gifting at age 75 instead. Now, your oldest at this point would be 49 years old. Your gift may allow them to travel with their family and gain invaluable memories. Maybe they save your gift for retirement and they're able to retire, let's say 3 years earlier over a stretch of gifting. You're able to see them use that gift and gain enjoyment from that gift that you're giving. What are you trying to accomplish by giving to the next generation? If the goal is to maximize your heirs' value from that gift, I would argue waiting until death is arguably the worst time to gift. Instead, gift that excess while you're alive. Now, again, another objection on top of this is, how will we know that we can gift safely? And this really comes back to your retirement plan. Without knowing your situation, I can't instruct you to gift a certain amount. That being said, know that a well-built retirement plan, one that is still conservative, typically for a lot of families allows gifting in a safe way rather than just accumulating that till the end and leaving the excess. Then finally, the last book is Outlive by Peter Attia. This last book focuses on another incredibly important foundation of a strong retirement, and that's your health. Aging isn't easy. Across the board, when we look at cardio ability and strength capacity, nearly every marker declines as you age. Now, some will look at this decline as an illness, just simply thrust upon them, as a handicap of sorts. Instead, this book scientifically lays out areas of decline and the prescription to combat that decline. We cannot reverse aging and live forever, at least not at the time of recording this video. We can't live in harmonious bliss, but we can slow aging to a manageable degree. A core idea I want to share from this book is that suffering in life is not optional. Let's focus this more narrowly on physical health. Physical suffering cannot be avoided, but the good news is you can choose the type of hard that you want to experience. Look, strength training and cardio training is hard. I don't know what dying feels like, but if you push yourself hard enough on something as simple as a stationary bike, I imagine that's pretty close to what death feels like. It's flippin' hard. But do you know what else becomes easier through this type of training? The rest of life. On average, you'll go to the doctor less. As this book shows, you'll live longer. You'll have more capacity for any range of activities that you want to perform. The ability to move well begets the ability to continue to move well. It's a flywheel of sort. Yes, exercise is hard, but there's a clear ROI. Again, if the benefits of exercise could be attained in a pill form, I think we'd all be addicts. But again, maintaining health, especially combating aging, again, is hard. Here's the thing though. So is not maintaining your health. Yes, you save yourself a half hour a day by not working out, but you don't get out of the physical suffering. Your muscles will atrophy more quickly, making things like walking up a set of stairs or getting off the floor more difficult. Each morning, you'll likely have to take a handful of pills as an easy way to survive the aging process. Resources both in the form of time and money will be exhausted through continual visits to the doctor. Ask anyone who's unhealthy and they will tell you that being unhealthy is hard too. So which hard do you want to choose? Which type of suffering will you choose? One that gives you optionality in the form of suffering, or one that is forced upon you? The number one message from this book is the importance of both cardio and strength training to combat aging. Yes, nutrition is important. Yes, measures to combat underlying chronic illness are important, but on a broad basis, nothing comes close to matching the importance of varied physical training. Again, I'm not going to do it justice, but I'd highly recommend picking up this book and starting to implement some of the health tactics and strategies in your life. Now, in this video, I cherry-picked certain concepts or examples from these books. I've also talked about other concepts and examples from some of these books in previous videos. If you're someone who's wanting to dig a little bit more into these books before purchasing one of them, let's say, highly recommend you click on this video right here, where I talk about 5 proven and tested ideas that will completely reshape your retirement. Again, click on this video to learn more, and always remember, you don't need more money, you need a better plan. Thanks for watching.